Welcome to Dark Cat Studios. I am Azelzor, and this is the Flaming Scimitar. Rich, eccentric, Sultan of the Seas, Patriarch of the Colleges of Magic, Merchant Prince, the Gilded King of Coffer, what truth are there to the claims of the Golden Magus? He wields a flaming scimitar of which his ship is named, and great magics of air and ocean and flame. The storerooms of the ship are filled with strange treasures, artifacts, and captured magical creatures, including rows of small mysterious bottles. To fight the flaming scimitar, one must face hidden bronze cannons, sword-wielding ogre bodyguards, captured spirits, and the powerful elements of magic itself. To learn more about this vessel, check out the book Dreadfleet by Phil Kelly. The Golden Magus of the Flaming Scimitar is a good example in Games Workshop, how the good guys aren't always good guys. It's kind of a slave ship. He's got harems, captured servants and creatures and animals. He's got locked down in the holds of this vessel. Anyway, this is the army that's going up against the Dreadfleet, part of the Grand Alliance. And if you think about the Dreadfleet, I mean, it's really a vampire that's fled Sylvania and is resurrecting everything in his path. So the bad guys are kind of the ones that really has just brought a bunch of things back to life. The good guys are not necessarily all that nice. It's heavily inspired by 1001 Nights and characters like Jafar. There's kind of an Arabian Nights Arabic fantasy culture of jinn and in the old fantasy Warhammer game, and that's essentially what this ship is tied to. I did not make good decisions when painting this sail. I am used to batch painting, and typically in that process, if I'm going to use like that bronze color, I apply it everywhere I can, and then switch paints, and then apply the next color wherever I can. It does not work very well though for these one-off miniatures, which I'm not used to painting. I'm trying to paint around some of the bronze I've already put on. What I should have done was just get the sail color established before I painted anything else. I'm just putting fire color everywhere. And same thing, the sail isn't really done, but I'm working on the raised section and the detail. It's not a good process. I'm quite liberal with the washes. The important part when using these washes is really just ensuring that the coating makes sense before it dries. So I put it on everywhere, but I'll go back over before it dries and just make sure I don't have like pooling in places I don't want it. I spend a lot of time before I start on the models just laying them out, looking at them, figuring out how I'm going to paint them, what kind of paint I'm going to use. For the most part right now, I find it nice to just be able to paint once I start painting and not be worrying about what colors. So I do plan out, I'm going to use this series of blues or this, this set of paints for this part of the vessel, and I was trying to make them look like the cards and the artwork and the pictures in the book. I'm just trying to shade that air elemental, but there wasn't a wash that matched the value I needed, so I made my own, and what you're seeing is basically it runs everywhere. It's still just like a watery paint. This actually gets quite messy and spreads out because it's still just watery paint. I take a lot of the water and moisture off of the brush, and then I can use that to absorb some of the paint. And you can actually take off paint in places by doing that. I'm just dabbing it around the wind there. You can take it right off wherever you wanted it and lighten it up. Just by removing all the moisture and paint off the brush, it just sponges up the paint. And same thing when I go back over the sail now with this very watered down shade, it does spill kind of everywhere. And I use that technique again where I just take some paint and moisture off the brush and then sponge it up. Now I'm applying a gold highlight on top of the bronze, and this paint was going on much better. I have a much easier time painting over paint than I do some of the plastic. The fire elemental is quite textured, and it was fun to get the oranges and yellows on those details. There's actually quite a lot of surface area when you have all these edges. While I was painting that fire elemental, I was squeezing on the air elemental, and I broke it off. So that's me crying, whining. That's me whining about my mistake. I think in earlier shots you can see it's sort of, I'm palming it in my hand and I'm just like squeezing too hard on that air elemental. I'm trying to build the right value for the sail, and I'm mixing two colors together. And this is where I'm basically going back over the sail, and this is the step I should have done initially, was just get the sail colors figured out before I did any of that detail and the scimitar. And this is where, like, looking back, it would be better just to do one object at a time, like just do the sail, get it done, move to the next. You know, paint the boat separately, or paint these elementals separately. Work my way up and finish them, instead of trying to do one color and then apply it. I mean, it gives you consistency between the different values throughout the ship, I guess. But I mean, I'm also painting out of these pre-mixed pots, so it's not really necessary. I'm used to batch painting a figure like an orc or an Imperial Guardsman or something like that. And then once I figure out the color scheme, I'm pretty much running through the same steps over and over. But these ships have been quite challenging actually, because each ship is quite different elements to them to figure out. And yeah, they're all unique. I think the biggest lesson though was not to paint like a batch painter, and is to paint each element separately. I'm applying highlights to the sail. I basically run this bleach bone color over the different raised sections and edges. This is a technique I haven't really done before, where I'm mixing wet on wet. Basically a watered down yellow and watered down orange, and I'm blending them together a little bit. It works better near the center, and then at the very edges I just applied a bright yellow highlight again. I don't want to give the story away, but surprisingly this is, I would say, one of the most nefarious of the ship captains. We have to pause for intermission here. I've spilled my pot. Luckily, I've been painting on this little cutting board. This is the Agrax Earthshade wash I was using, and well, I wasn't filming at the time, but I knocked it over. And I only spill a little bit. An expensive and costly mistake. I could have got a little dropper too and probably sucked up a little bit more. Yeah, so basically now I've just been going back through with blue. So now I'm doing the water on the edges of the ship and then the water on the sails. These little water waves here, I had to go back over and paint just to match up into the base, because they're at the side of the ship. And they actually look like some of them look like little water nymphs moving the ship along. So that was neat too, because that was where there's the air elemental, the fire elemental, but actually in the waves is the water elementals working to move the ship as well. So this is a Tester's non-toxic plastic glue. I really like it. I don't like the fumes of toxic glues. It's tacky and sticky, so it's easy to hold things together, and there I'm just using a pot of paint to position it, because I hate just holding the two objects and gluing them together. I'm too lazy for that. I'd rather make an intricate stand of brushes and paint pots to hold it together. Overall, I thought this ship was fun. Turned out really well. I'm excited to see how these air and fire elementals work in the game. I think this wizard ship has a distinct advantage to the other ships, where you can control the winds and burn other vessels. There we have it, the flaming scimitar. That was a good learning experience. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, like and subscribe so you can watch more obscure, chill painting videos where I talk about the fantastical elements of these stories and share some of my painting mishaps that I hope you can learn from. Thank you. Take care.